Did Jon Roxton beat Daemon Targaryen? House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 8 explained. Spoiler warning. This video contains major spoilers for House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 8, including the Battle of Tumbleton and the shocking confrontation between Jon Roxton and Daemon Targaryen. If you haven't watched the Season 3 finale yet, this is your warning. So, did Jon Roxton actually beat Daemon Targaryen? The answer is complicated, because Jon Roxton does not officially defeat Daemon. But during their fight, Roxton clearly gets the upper hand, and for a moment, Daemon Targaryen is in serious danger. This is one of the biggest surprises of the Tumbleton battle. Daemon is supposed to be one of the greatest warriors in Westeros. He is the rogue prince. He has decades of combat experience. He has fought in the Stepstones, commanded armies, and survived countless battles. He also carries Darksister, one of the most famous Valyrian steel swords in Westeros. So when Jon Roxton confronts him, most viewers would expect Daemon to dominate the fight. But that's not what happens. Jon Roxton proves to be an extremely dangerous opponent, and the reason becomes obvious almost immediately. Roxton is physically larger and stronger than Daemon. He is also an experienced warrior and carries the Valyrian steel sword Orphan-Maker. So this isn't Daemon fighting an ordinary soldier. He is fighting one of the most dangerous warriors on the green side. The confrontation happens during the chaos of the first Battle of Tumbleton. The battle itself is already completely out of control. Dragons are attacking the town, soldiers are fighting in the streets, buildings are burning, and both sides are suffering enormous casualties. Daemon is trying to help the Black forces break through the green defenses. But eventually, he comes face to face with Roxton, and the fight begins. At first, Daemon tries to rely on his experience and swordsmanship. But Roxton is incredibly aggressive. He doesn't give Daemon much space. He attacks with his greater size and strength and manages to overpower him. And this is where the fight becomes shocking. Daemon is actually struggling. Roxton gets Daemon into a dangerous position and appears close to killing him. For a character who has spent much of the series looking almost unbeatable, this is a huge moment. Daemon isn't weak, he isn't suddenly a bad fighter. He's simply facing an opponent who has a major physical advantage. And there's another factor. Daemon is older than he was during his earlier battles. The Dance of the Dragons has been going on for years, and Daemon has already experienced enormous physical and emotional strain. Roxton, meanwhile, is fighting with incredible aggression. The result is that Roxton manages to push Daemon to the edge. So, does that mean Jon Roxton won? Not exactly. The fight never reaches a proper conclusion. Before Roxton can finish Daemon, the battlefield itself intervenes. The structure beneath them begins to collapse. The fighting, dragonfire, and destruction around Tumbleton cause the area to give way. Daemon and Roxton are separated. And just like that, the fight is over. There is no final killing blow. Daemon doesn't defeat Roxton. Roxton doesn't kill Daemon. So technically, the fight ends without a winner. But if we're judging who had the advantage during the actual fight, the answer is Jon Roxton. Roxton was the one controlling the encounter. He was the one overpowering Daemon, and Daemon was the one in danger. That's why so many viewers came away from the scene saying that Roxton beat Daemon. He didn't win in the traditional sense, but he proved that he could defeat Daemon in a one-on-one fight, and that is a huge accomplishment. Because Daemon Targaryen has one of the strongest reputations as a warrior in the entire story. He's been called many things throughout his life: the rogue prince, a warrior, a dragon rider, a dangerous commander, and someone who is willing to do almost anything to protect his family and achieve his goals. But Tumbleton shows us something important. Daemon is not invincible, and Jon Roxton is one of the few men who can physically push him to the edge. There is also an interesting difference between the show and George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood. The book does not have this exact Daemon versus Roxton confrontation. House of the Dragon has created this fight specifically for its version of the Tumbleton battle, and that makes the scene even more significant. The writers are using Roxton to demonstrate just how dangerous the Green forces can be. He isn't simply another soldier. He is someone capable of standing against Daemon himself. And the scene also helps make Tumbleton feel unpredictable. Nobody is completely safe, not even Daemon, not even the most experienced warriors. A character can survive one battle and die in the next. A dragon can change the outcome in seconds, and even a seemingly decisive sword fight can be interrupted by the destruction happening around it. That's exactly what happens here. Daemon survives because Tumbleton itself becomes more dangerous than the men fighting inside it. And this is important when we look at the larger story. The Battle of Tumbleton is not a clean victory for either side. The town is devastated. Civilians are caught in the fighting. The Green Army loses important leadership. The Black forces suffer enormous losses, and the dragons themselves become instruments of destruction. The battle shows just how far the Dance of the Dragons has fallen. It isn't simply two armies fighting over the Iron Throne anymore. The entire battlefield has become chaos. And Daemon's fight with Roxton is a perfect example. Even the rogue prince can barely control what is happening around him. Now there is another reason this fight is so interesting. Jon Roxton isn't a dragon rider. He doesn't have a dragon protecting him. He doesn't have the political power of a Targaryen prince. He doesn't have Daemon's legendary reputation. All he has is his sword, his strength, and his ability as a warrior. And for a brief moment, that is enough. He manages to make one of the most famous fighters in Westeros look vulnerable. That's why Roxton earns so much attention from viewers during the finale. He doesn't need a dragon to become a serious threat. He simply needs an opening, and Daemon gives him one. But there is also a bigger question. What would have happened if the structure hadn't collapsed? Would Roxton have killed Daemon? Based on what we see, there is a very real possibility. Roxton had already gained the advantage. Daemon was in trouble, and there was no guarantee that he would have been able to turn the fight around. But we'll never know. The collapse prevents the fight from reaching its conclusion. And that's why the best answer is not that Jon Roxton defeated Daemon. The best answer is that Jon Roxton nearly defeated Daemon. He won the advantage. He pushed Daemon into a dangerous position. But he never finished the fight. Daemon survives. And that distinction matters, because Daemon's story continues. Roxton also survives the encounter and remains part of the chaos at Tumbleton. The two warriors therefore leave the fight without a definitive victor. But their reputations have changed. Roxton has demonstrated that he can stand against Daemon. And Daemon has learned that even a man without a dragon can be a deadly opponent. There is also something symbolic about the way the fight ends. Neither man decides the outcome. The battlefield does. That is exactly what the Dance of the Dragons has become. Characters make plans. They make alliances. They believe they understand what will happen next. And then the war destroys those plans. A dragon attacks. A commander dies. A city burns. An alliance collapses. And suddenly, everything changes. Daemon's fight with Roxton is another example of that. It begins as a personal duel. But before either man can win, the entire battlefield collapses around them. So, did Jon Roxton beat Daemon Targaryen? If by beat you mean officially defeated him, no. The fight was interrupted. There was no confirmed winner. But if you mean who had the upper hand, then yes. Jon Roxton was beating Daemon during the confrontation. He physically overpowered him and came extremely close to killing him. Daemon survived because the collapsing battlefield separated them. And that makes Jon Roxton one of the very few warriors who can claim to have pushed Daemon Targaryen to the brink. It's also one of the most memorable fights of the Season 3 finale, because Daemon may be one of the most dangerous men in Westeros. But even the rogue prince can bleed. Even Daemon can be overpowered, and Jon Roxton proved it. So, what do you think? If the structure hadn't collapsed, would Jon Roxton have killed Daemon? Or would Daemon eventually have turned the fight around? And do you think Roxton is actually a better swordsman than Daemon? Or did his size and strength simply give him the advantage in this particular encounter? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
The Battle of Tumbleton may be over, but the Dance of the Dragons is far from finished.